Hi there, this is Edmund, and today we're going to have a short tutorial where I'll be showing you two things. First of all, we're going to talk about color cards, meaning that that's the card with colors that you can have on set. That will help you to, correct the colors in probably the fastest way. And the second part is we're going to colorize one of the shots. We're going to, apply the white balance, adjust the primaries, and create a nice, sunny looking look on a shot that was filmed during quite a cloudy day. So I imported two shots, and first of all, we're going to, see if we have everything done right. So it's 24 frames. It's a 4K video. It's been filmed with my Lumix S1 in 30 frames per second in 10-bit. So actually one thing that I'm going to do is change the attributes to 24. This way we're going to have just a little bit more smooth looking shot. And then we're going to make it even faster, because those are quite a big files. We're going to generate optimized media real quick. So in the meantime, those both shots, I'm going to give them away as well. You're gonna find the download link in the description. And so what I want you to do is to experiment yourself and see what kind of look you can create, etc. And last but not least, make sure that you have the paid version of DaVinci, because this is a shot in 10-bit, so you will need a paid version for that in order to edit those as well. So let's get to it. We have two shots. I'm going to import them both. There we go. Let's mute the sound because that's not important. And this is an example. This is Maxime, who is holding a color card, and I'm going to show you how to use it and also why to use it. And we're not going to talk about theory a lot, but I'm just going to show you the quick steps that will help you to colorize, to color correct your shots properly. So straight away, let's choose a nice steady frame. There we go. And I'm going to use 2 knots, although most likely I only need 1. So in order to use the color card, we're going to this tab, and we're going to select the color chart. There we go. So sometimes it's called color card, sometimes it's called color chart. You can use whatever name you want, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this selection to show our software where all the colors are. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to see if everything's done properly. There we go, very good. So the source gamma, we're going to use the V-log because it's filmed in V-log. Target gamma is okay. And for the color temperature, I'm going to use a chart that I downloaded earlier. And what it is, we filmed in the outdoor shade. We filmed in the cloudy sky, and this is 7,500 Kelvin. So right now it's actually set properly. So I'm just going to move it a little bit more to make sure that the selection is done properly, and we're going to match. There we go. Let's zoom out. Let's go back, and I'll show you again. Let's match again, and there we go. And so one thing, I'm going to delete the second knot, and then I'm going to grab steel so I can apply it to the next shot. So one thing that shouldn't discourage you is that, you know, a color chart or a color card is not always a quick fix. You know, sometimes you have to help your software to interpret the colors in the right way. But for now, so sometimes you hit the match button, but you find out that the shot is not actually really looking good. So you think that you can just just use the color correction yourself in a normal conventional way. But my advice is, know how to do both and know how to get the most, the best and most efficient results from both ways. So we're going to the second shot. I'm going to turn off the overlay, and so we're going to add a couple of notes. There we go. And so the first one is going to be the preset that I've done already. There we go. So this way I copied whatever I did in the previous clip. So this way we already corrected it a little bit. Then, so let's create some labels. So this is the chart. This is a primaries. This is white balance, and then the last one is going to be, well, let's start with the skin tones. The objective of this shot is, well, there is a little bit of sun, but to be honest, she's still in the shade. So let's focus on this shot. Very good. And let's play around with the primary. So we go to the waveform, and we see that we have a little bit too much highlights, and we can also do more with the shadows. So let's lower down the highlights, so this way we have much more detail in the clouds as well, and then we also get down the shadows, and we play around with midtones. And when it comes to the midtones, well, it's when it comes to the beauty shots and the midtones, it's quite easy. What you want is to make sure that the skin tones are in this range. There we go. So this way I see that for now it's good. So maybe we can play a little bit with the contrast as well. Here we go, and a pivot. Of course, we want to create a little bit more focus on her skin and on her face. But this is already quite a cool looking shot. And of course, at this stage you see that there is not too much color, but that's going to be the next step. So we're going to the white balance. We're going to switch to the vector scope, and we see that everything is a little bit, the most colors are going in the direction of red and yellow, and this way we want to balance it a little bit. So let's start with the offset and try to get it all back, and we see that the image that we're creating becomes a little bit less saturated. Actually, that's the next step. Let's play with saturation, because when you're shooting in in a cloudy weather, that's when you want to have more saturation in the post-production so you can actually create this sunny look. And I'm going to show you exactly that. For now, let's see. If I'm going to select her skin, there we go. Then I see in the vector scope that the skin tones are around the skin tone line, which shows me where the correct skin tones should be, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to reset this, and then we're going to play with the shot that we have. So let's start with the most important part, which are the skin tones. And for this, I'm going to use the qualifier. There we go. And since we've been filming in 10-bit, then you can see straight away that we have a lot of control over. I'm going to blow radius a little bit more, go a little more in. For this tutorial, I'm not going to really create a very correct image. This is more of a like a quick tutorial just to show you a little bit how my process looks like. And so when it comes to the skin tones, it looks a little bit like this. Okay, so I like what I see. Now that I isolated the skin tones, first thing that I'm going to do is play with the mid-tone details, making her skin more soft. So just to give you an idea, I'm actually going to make it a little bit more sharper. So if I'm going to add more mid-tone detail, that's when you see the result. So this is 67, 70 points. It's, it makes the shot very rough. It's a little bit more like HDR, etc. But when you're working with skin, you want to turn it back to a negative, let's say -20, -30, and let's do around 35 to make sure that her skin is soft. So I like it for now. Let's not experiment with the color too much. Let's maybe add a little bit of more saturation to make sure that her skin really pops out, and maybe with some curves just to make sure that her skin is more, well, that it pops out, that it moves forward, etc. Okay. Before and after, and actually I don't like this look too much. Let's tone it back a little bit. Okay, this looks cool. So the next thing I want to control is, let's not do her hair, let's play a little bit with the sound, which in this case should be quite easy to isolate. So I'm going to add one parallel, and we're going to call it sand. So again, we go to the qualifier, we qualify the sand, and we try to remove the selection that focuses on her skin, and this shouldn't be very hard to achieve. However, sometimes, especially because of the skin tones, and especially the highlights on the skin tones, they come really close to, there we go, they come really close to the sand, and that's why sometimes it can get a little bit tricky. What can we do about it? Well, we have a shot here that's let's see if we can do it right. We have a shot here that's quite short, meaning that we can also play around with some windows and some, create some masks. Okay, this looks a little bit more denoise. There we go. Okay, this looks quite cool, and what I don't want right now is, her hair to be adjusted as well, because we're going to colorize the sand. Again, we don't have so much sun in this shot, so this way we want to have a little bit more control over the whole feeling, over the colors that we have. So let's play around a little bit and let's make this our selection. This is going to be our mask. Going to a tracker, and let's let our software to focus on the sand, and here we see that the selection gets off, but we're going to adjust it as well. So finally we're going to make the selection a little bit bigger, and for now this should be all right. Okay, so what do we want to do with the sand? Let's straight away play with some mid-tone details, meaning that we're going to make the sand a little bit more rough. And to be honest, you won't really see it. There is not too much details in there. But maybe we can play with curves. There we go. One of the things that I want, when editing a shot like this, is to make sure that the focus really goes to her. Meaning that if we're going to add some color to the sand, I'm going to do it right now. Even, just playing with the offset, you can see straight away how much control we have over this shot. So even if we want to make the sand look more like blue, that's possible. But of course, in this tutorial, we want to have it a little bit more natural and, paradise looking. But at the same time, I don't want to distract our viewer from her, because she's the most important part of this video. So let's make sure that the look that we're creating, that it looks cool, that it looks nice, but at the same time that the focus is not going away from her. Okay, so a little bit more yellowish, a little bit more saturation as well. There we go. This is before, this is after. You can actually see how much difference it makes. And if you're looking at a shot like this, you see straight away that, okay, this looks much more sunny than how we filmed it. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. We're going to add another parallel node. This is going to be the greens. The greens in this case should be very easy to isolate. There we go. Little radius. Denoise, and I'm actually going to make the selection a little bit smaller and the blur radius bigger. some curves. I don't want to, create too much. I don't want to focus too much on the background. Here we're going to also add a little bit more mid-tone detail. Gives a little bit more detail, a little bit more quality to our video. And then we can colorize it. Let's maybe play with the mid-tone first. And this way we can create a nice look. So just let's go in some direction to see what kind of look we want. We don't really want this, this Disney kind of green, but at the same time we do want to create a little bit more color in our video. So let's do something like this. There we go. Okay, for now it looks cool, and the last part that I want to focus on is going to be the sky. And right now it's a little bit grayish. There is some, there is some blue in it, but at the same time we want it to have a little bit different, slightly different color. So we're going to qualify again, and let's make sure to have all the sky, all the highlights, to have it selected. And here you see that even with a selection that is so easy, it can be a little bit tricky. And one thing that I see already is that we get a little bit of her skins, but that's very easy to and back. Select it a little bit too more, but that's very easy to fix. So the radius, let's we don't have to worry too much on these highlights over here. That's the selection. And so here we can experiment a little bit with how we want the clouds to look like. Because if we're going to make it very blue, it's actually going to look like... Okay, actually if we're going to make it blue and then darker, then those are going to look like thunderclouds. And that's not something that we want. So I'm going to make them a little bit lighter. For this I'm also going to use the waveform to make sure that we are not going to, go too much when it comes to the highlights. And so the color that I'm going to create, I'm not going to play too much with this, maybe a little bit more saturation. There we go. And the shadows, if we actually have any, they can be changed as well. There we go. One thing I really don't like that I see right now is this thing, meaning that one of my masks, probably the one from the sand, is not done properly. So let's see if we can fix it real quick. As a matter of fact, we have some very cool details in here. There we go. Okay, so this is far from perfect, but for the sake of this tutorial and for the sake of the length of this tutorial, we're not going to play too much with it. But this is the shot that we created. So the last thing that I want to do, the last thing that I want to use is to add a little bit of a vignette. And we're not going to create a custom vignette, we're going to just use the vignette effect. And I also don't want the vignette to be too dominant. So let's have it a little bit less softer, and then let's blend it in. There we go. Let's blend it in with the shot, turn it off, turn it on, and it looks pretty cool. So this is it. This is how the shot looked before, and this is how the shot looked after. So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. It's been this wasn't a short tutorial, but I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned a little bit. It was a complete improvisation, and at no point, and that's something I want to make sure that it's said, I'm not an expert when it comes to DaVinci. I'm still learning the software, but I decided that instead of waiting for 1 year to teach you guys something, I decided to just fail forward and create as much tutorials as possible of the things that I'm learning right now, and the shots that I'm creating, the things that I'm creating. For instance, this was a model shoot that I've done 1 week ago, meaning that this way I can actually provide a little bit of value for you, meaning that I can give you some raw footage of my own on a regular basis, and you can play with it, you can work with it, and this way we can actually learn together. And of course, if you have any questions, if you have any topics that you would like me to make a tutorial about or to speak about, just let me know. Just let me know in the comment section, or send me an email, send me a message, whatever works for you. And I hope that you like this. I hope that you like this tutorial. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my email list as well, and of course download the shots that I showed you just now, so you can play with them and experiment with them yourself. And thank you for your time, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you and I'll speak to you in the next one. Thank you.